Good morning, BookTube. This is Johnny making a video in the morning, even though I made a video last night. Well, I made it around, I don't know, sometime in the evening hours. But my wife just left for church, and I forgot to mention something in that last video. And I do want to mention it, and it's that my it was like Friday, our oldest son dropped by and left me a record. Now I don't have a turntable, but my oldest son, he bought this record at some record shop in Granville, and this is called Poetry Readings in the Cellar with the Cellar Jazz Quintet, Kenneth Rexroth and Lawrence Ferlinghetti. Now, people probably know who, well, I suppose people, not everybody, but one of the most famous bookstores in America is City Lights Bookstore in San Francisco, which was started by Lawrence Ferlinghetti. And I don't know how many people read the poetry of Kenneth Rexroth, but I do. I just thought I'd show you his biography. I have a biography on the life of Kenneth Rexroth by Linda Hamalian. And I also have his complete poems of Kenneth Rexroth, edited by Hamill and Bradford Morrow. I just want to show these. And I also have a box set called Howls, Raps, and Roars, Recordings from the San Francisco Poetry Renaissance. And on the back here there is a recording of Kenneth Rexroth reciting a poem, Thou Shalt Not Kill. And then there's Lawrence Ferlinghetti reading a poem, Autobiography, The Statue of St. Francis, Moscow in the Wilderness, Savoy in the Snow. And there's all kinds of this. You have Allen Ginsberg reading poetry, Lenny Bruce, Allen Ginsberg again, Philip Walden, Michael McClure, Gregory Crusoe, and yeah, so I bought this many years ago. I think when we first moved here to Holland, I bought this box set. I have a Jack Kerouac recording box set. I have an Allen Ginsberg box set with recordings. And so I just thought I'd show that to you because I forgot these two books and this record. This is put up by Fantasy. I know Allen Ginsberg recorded poetry on Fantasy Records. It was a big thing in the early, well, not early, but late 50s. This came out in the spring of 1957. So I thought I'd show you that. I also showed you last night this box, this big, massive 2-volume novel, Anniversaries. This is volume 1, August 1997 to April 1968, and then you have same thing, April 1968 to August 1968. And I thought it's called Anniversaries from a Year in the Life of Gesine, I can't pronounce it. Cresspahl, I don't know, by Uwe Johnson. A new translation by Damion Searls. It says here in the back here on this box, late in 1967, Uwe Johnson set out to write a book that would take the unusual form of a chapter for every day of ongoing year. excuse me, it would be the tale of Gesine Cresspahl. I can't pronounce her name. It's a 34-year-old single mother who was a German immigrant to Manhattan's Upper West Side, and of her 10-year-old daughter, Maria, a story of work and school, of friends and lovers, and the countless small encounters with neighbors and strangers that make up big city life. An everyday tale, but also a tale of the events of the day, as gleaned by Gesine from the New York Times. Johnson could hardly foresee the convulsions of 1968, but some of the news, the racial unrest rolling America, the escalating war in Vietnam, were sure to be news for some time yet to come. Finally, it would be a tale told by Gesine to Maria about Gesine's childhood in a small North German town, of her independent and enterprising father, of her troubled mother, of Nazi Germany. Gesine was born the year Hitler came to power, World War II, and Soviet retribution in the grimly regulated realities of communist East Germany. An ambitious historical novel, as well as a wonderfully observed New York novel, Anniversaries would take in the unsettled world of the present along with the 20th century's disastrous past, while vividly depicting the struggle of a loving, though hardly uncomplicated mother and a bright and indomitably curious girl to understand and care for each other and to shape a human world. So, as far as you know, those who watch my video knows that I collect books on 1968 in America, and it's an important year. If you look at what took place in America in 1968, it's very interesting. So that's what I want to show. I got morning slime in my throat. So yeah, I just thought show you the record, show you the poetry of Kenneth Rexroth. As far as this morning, I've been writing in my diary. I'm on page 866. I've been writing in my diary since 1968. Well, in diary. As I've mentioned, when I left California in 78, I burned all my diaries, which is a very stupid thing. I often wish I had everything I ever wrote. Every single thing. That's why I still have all my Bible college notes. I have all my seminary notes. I have diaries going back 41 years. My wife and I have been going on married 40 years, and I didn't, when I left California, I think I kept the year 77 or 78, and but everything else from 68 up until 1976 I burned. It makes me sick. I mentioned I was I de-hauled a lot of books, and I was downstairs and I came across our son's college papers and books, but one thing, our son Josiah, who lives out in the state of Washington, he kept diaries when he was in college, and he kept them in little index cards, and he has downstairs this big like file box full of cards, index cards with all his diary entries. And many years ago he told me, "I'm going to throw those away, Dad. I don't want to remember that stuff." And I told him, someday when you're in your 40s and 50s, you're going to wish you had those diaries that you wrote when you were a young man in college. And so I told him just to keep them here. So they're downstairs in a big metal like file cabinet thing with all his index cards. And someday maybe he'll take them when he's an old man. He's in his mid-30s now. And we're all growing old. So I wish I had all my diaries. Everything I wrote, even when I was in the 11th grade, I wrote some stuff, but I don't. So I write every day. I've been writing every day since I can remember. Well, as I mentioned, I think I started writing every day probably around 1975, 76. From about 1968 up until 1976, I wrote sporadically, but I collected things. I collected like underground newspapers. When I was in high school, I applied for being a conscious objector against the Vietnam War, and I collected all this anti-war material. I had to fill out all these things talking about why I was against the war, why I wouldn't fight, and I had to do all kinds of things, and I had letters and photographs and stuff I wrote when I was in college up in Mackinac Island, and when I was like 21, 22 years old, and I had a lot of Jesus people material, letters, you know, all kinds of stuff. It took me 2 days to burn all that stuff. I had a girlfriend then who had a huge, giant fireplace, and I just burned it all. Stupid. Still regret that. But I do have 41 years of diaries, the life of our children growing up, the life of our marriage, Carol and I being married, and maybe I'll live to be an old man. I don't know. I'm 66 years old. If I live to be in my 90s, I got another 20 years. So yeah, I just keep writing it all down. And like I've said, I told our son Josiah to burn it all when I'm dead, because it's massive. You go downstairs in the lower level, it's like I write over 1,300 pages a year. I keep magazines. I copy stuff off from the internet, and like I've been starting collecting these. This morning, my wife went downtown to get Sunday newspapers, and she gets a New York Times Sunday newspaper, and I started collecting. The what is called the New York Times magazine. I start collecting these, and every time we get one of the New York Times Sunday newspaper, it comes with a New York Times magazine, and they're really good to read. And I start just keeping them, and then I put them in with my diaries. At the end of the month, I put them with my diary. So I start collecting these. So they go into, I collected for years Rolling Stone magazines, No Depression magazines, Spin magazines. Sometimes I would collect special issues of the Atlantic magazine. I would, all kinds of stuff. And so it becomes pretty massive. So who wants to look at all that stuff when I'm in the ground? So yeah, so life goes by. So this is a Sunday morning. It is 10:22 in the morning here in Southwest Michigan. It is October the 21st. It's a Sunday. Today I'll probably watch some football, read, write, and just keep going down the death flow. It's a new week. Tomorrow's a Monday. I go back to the Book Nook, the library used bookstore, and my wife goes back to work, and coming to the end of the month, and life just keeps going by. So, as far as what I'm reading this morning, Grounded in Heaven, Recentering Christian Hope in Life on God. I put away my Puritan books. I put away my all kinds of stuff. I was reading St. Thomas Aquinas on the vision of God in the Summa, but I put that away, and I've been listening to stuff on the YouTube, lectures by Scott McKnight. What is the Gospel? Really good stuff. I've shown in the past the books by Scott McKnight, who's one of my favorite New Testament scholars. So yeah, so life goes by. So I just want to make this video, show you the stuff I didn't show you last night. And yeah, so I will close. Hope you have a good new week. And until next time, bye.